Got a line. We should be good. And two shakes.
Okay, I think it's good now. Thank you, now, Daryl, for that. Good morning and welcome to General Finance. Please bear with me. I'm slowly getting over an illness, so I may have to take a drink of water every now and then. But I'll first begin by identifying any media on the line. I'm not seeing any media. So that'll lead us into the changes, additions, deletions to the agenda. Looking to a mover and seconder for the adoption of our general finance agenda for today.
I'll move.
I'll second Melba.
Okay, thank you, Nyawa, for that. Moved by Carrie, seconded by Melba to adopt our general finance agenda as is. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. We do have a delegation this morning, and I think this is more of a follow-up to the last our last guest we had, Leslie online from the Agriculture Society, who in return hosts our annual fall. So I know I believe we have a number of guests from the Agricultural Society on the line. Maybe what I'll do is pass it over. I see Leslie. Excuse me, sorry, Leslie. You're on two devices. You're on your iPhone and your iPad. Just an FYI.
Okay. I've got Garlo here. So.
Okay, so maybe what I'll do. Okay, yeah, you may have some interruptions, Leslie.
Okay, here we go. I'll shut this down.
Okay, thank you, Nyawa, for that. Okay, so good morning and welcome to all of the members who are here with us this morning from the Agricultural Society. Maybe what I'll do is first pass the floor over to yourself, Leslie. So maybe perhaps you can do some introductions of those who are on the line this morning with your delegation from the Agricultural Society. So good morning, and I'll pass the floor over to you, Leslie.
Thank you very much, Mark. I've got Marion Garlo here. My visuals aren't that good on this device, so I think Chad Garlo's with us, Cindy Garlo, Cindy Longboat, Jen Montour, Lindsay Hill, Paula Anderson, and I don't know who else is joining us this morning in this meeting. Oh, Jay is also with us. Oh, there's Chad. Morning, Chad.
Perfect. Good morning, and thank you, everybody, Nyawa, for joining us this morning. And thanks again, Leslie, for introducing again those who are on the line with the Agricultural Society. I'll pass the floor over to yourself. I think, Leslie, this is really a follow-up to our last discussion when you had joined General Finance previously on a request. I think it was for a total request of $60,000 for the Six Nations Fall Fair this year. So with that being said, I'll pass it over to yourself, and then we'll look to our finance team. I know we had a little bit of follow-up to do on our end to see if that request could be met or not. And I think we do have a figure that's agreeable with, if agreeable with council. So with that being said, I'll pass it over to you, back over to you, Leslie.
Okay, thank you very much, Chief. Now we have, I understand that Lindsay Hill had sent Becky our fair budget for our which outlines it's a breakdown of what the budget is, like what we've actually allotted for it. Due to the price increases this year, everything's gone sky high. We've secured the midway rides with an understanding that the balance is to be paid. We've got the wrestling lined up, the entertainment, Kids Day, the exhibits. We had to have new booklets printed. So as you can see, the numbers are there. We're still looking at the insurance piece. My understanding is Lindsay was going to check into that. We weren't gonna do fireworks this year because it just wasn't in the budget, so we have tried to cut certain things out. We've still got the baby show, the ambassador pageant, the demolition derby, Kids Day is on the Friday. Our rentals have increased. This year, we're gonna have a euchre tournament with the food bank. And Chad Garlow has made arrangements and done a lot of work in setting that up. We're having a cornhole tournament, smoke dance competition, the car show, and our advertising has gone up. And then miscellaneous supplies, which I briefly outlined, such as golf carts to transport the elders and garbage and things like that, and security. So I think if you notice, it actually comes out to 78,000, but we were asking for 60. So does anybody have any questions for any of us?
Okay, thank you, Nyawa, for walking us through that. I know everybody does have your documents, I believe, within their drop boxes. So if there's any further questions or comments in relation to the budget, I'll look to open the floor up. I see Kerry has his hand raised.
Yeah, just on this, some of the competitions, and is there prize money?
Yes, there is.
You have a lot of,
Yeah, prize.
Yes, there is prize money.
But we don't have it on here.
Like the smoke dance competition, the demolition derby. In the past, we have paid for the trophies, and they make the arrangements and do all the other stuff. So it's just the trophies that we provide, that we pay for. But the smoke dance competition and the euchre tournament, they'll be in charge of their, like, we'll donate the prizes. I think, Chad, is that how we set it up? We're gonna have the prize money?
Correct, with
Yeah.
everything food bank.
Yes, and I do just to add in as well. I believe you also said you mentioned your prize book in relation to when people submit.
Yes, for our exhibits,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
do have money, and
So-
people will be paid on the Sunday,
Right.
their exhibits.
I know there was some discussion around that prize money amount at times, but obviously given the budget, I can see where that would have to be some more, I guess advocating for more dollars.
Yes, like our exhibits, what we needed is we've listened to what the community said, and there's a lot more people interested in the putting in their canned goods and their,
They're waiting for the.
their
books.
crafts, whatever. And so we're just waiting for the books, which should be out, I think, this week or
Yeah, this week.
this week, at the end of this week. So we'll distribute those in the community so people have them. And I think we've upped our prize money, but not a great deal. In comparison with other fairs, like $3 to $5 is, I think,
Mhm.
pretty much. And we have some honorariums that have been given on behalf of families for different events.
I can add on that one, Leslie.
Okay, Cindy, thanks, great.
With the prize book, we've contacted various groups to see what basically what the arts and crafts are that are being done around, like say basket making. There's more beading, so we've made the prize book a little bit more relevant with what's going on in the community. So there should be a breakdown of the book. So if there's any questions, I've got the total amounts of what is the prize amount. Because I was kind of shocked when I was doing it too, because I wanted to know what the prize book was worth. But we do have a lot of sponsors. I think it was roughly a little bit over $300, which went towards that. But yeah, it's a 32 page prize book, and that's with every category, every class being submitted. Usually that doesn't happen. So and this is my first year running the exhibit. So I'm trying to make sure I have everything, like all my I's dotted and T's crossed. So when we go into next year, we can get a better idea of what needs to be done and what kind of estimates we have in there for the prizes.
Okay, perfect. That's great. Thank you, Nyawa, for that, Cindy. And I know I know it's been a long time coming, trying to get that component of the fair back up to what it used to be. So do appreciate your efforts in that realm. Sorry, Carrie, I just want to go back to you really quickly if there was any further questions or comments on your end.
No, that's all. Thanks.
I
Okay,
have a
thanks.
comment.
Okay, I'll go over to Audrey. I think I see her hand first, and then I'll shift over to Helen. Audrey, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just want to know how well the schools are being involved in this activity. Have you reached out to them? Are they putting samples in or whatever else?
Cindy, I'll direct that back to you. Are you still with us, Cindy?
Yeah, she's just giving us a 1 minute,
Oh, okay.
1 minute time. I know. I know that's always been. I know Miss Judy Rubin has been on the board in the past. I think she's still on the board as well. Who's been a good connector to that, because that's really that has always been the driver. Really, Audrey, on that side is getting the schools involved, especially on the arts and crafts side of things when it comes to the exhibits. And one of the issues and barriers I know in the past has always been because schools are off that day. And so that has always, and they've only been in school for like maybe a couple weeks before the fair is on, and that gives minimal time. So I think it was always a scheduling kind of thing. But I'll hope to see that maybe there's more change happening this year. Cindy?
Yes. What was that? I'm sorry.
Sorry, that was in relation to the schools and getting involved with the exhibits.
Yes, actually, so I've, unfortunately, because the books weren't ready, I wasn't able to distribute the actual books, but I was able to email all the schools the PDF for the prize book. I emailed so every school, all the daycares, they got all that. And so that should be covered.
Cindy, if I'm not mistaken, you did that before school was out, correct?
I did do that before school was out.
Perfect. That's good. That's good, because I know it was always a little scheduling issue, because we have to give time really to get the students to actually do the arts and crafts to then be submitted.
Yes.
And actually the schools were very they were happy to get them. So, and when I do get the books, I will contact the schools and drop some of them off, but a lot of the with the prize books, there's only a couple pages that they needed to print to either send with their student or for the teachers. So the PDF was kind of worked out good for the schools.
Okay, perfect. Thanks for that, Cindy. Follow up back to you, Audrey.
Yeah, I thank you for doing that, Cindy. That's wonderful. Because when we used to do the fair, we used to get the books well in advance at the schools. So the kids had plenty of time to make reenactments, build dioramas, do all kinds of arts and crafts, food, that sort of stuff. So I think the earlier that the schools get them, the better. Then they not force the end of June, because June is a really tough month for the schools to get report cards done and all the paperwork that has to be done. And so that would be really appreciated. And so you're going to learn from this year, and it'll hopefully advance. Maybe they can have an old booklet for next year, especially if it's just the same.
Yes.
And, that was a driving force that the schools used to all participate in it, and
Yes.
they would bring their families out. And, the place was filled with families trying to see their kids' artwork, their writing, their whatever they did for a diorama or whatever they built and displayed. So it would be nice to get back to that again. And I commend you for the work you're doing. Yeah. Well.
Yeah. And with
I can
is we actually talked to a lot of the schools to find out what would be like. I worked with Teresa Mount Pleasant. She did a lot of research for the book. It was a delay to get it out. Next year, we're hoping to have the book for this year, and then we can go through what's not popular and then cut the book back down to a reasonable amount. It's just seeing what people want to enter.
Okay, that's great. Thanks. Sorry, Chad, did you want to add in?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to Audrey's comment. A lot of the work we're doing this year is foundational in nature. So we're getting this book, we're having it prepared digitally so that next year we can get it out likely in, early springtime. So, a lot of the rides with the works, the entertainment is all foundational. We want to get this fair to the point where it's self-sustaining so that we don't have to ask for money, right? Because everybody's asking for money. We want to build it up. To Carrie's comment earlier, we want a lot more bigger rides, which we've secured for next year. So a lot of the work is foundational. And, to your point is we want to get this stuff out earlier. And that's why we're doing things now.
That's wonderful. Yeah, well,
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that, Chad. And I know, I think it's probably year 5 or year 6 of the whole revitalization of the fair. And it's come a long way. So can definitely appreciate all of the work that everybody is putting in. I'll look to Helen. I believe Helen had a comment.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but I can't make my picture come on. I don't know what's going on. Anyway, yeah, I'm encouraging everyone to support the fair. I volunteered last year at the fair, and the people in the community were really appreciative to see me there. I sat all day and gave out tickets and whatnot. So I encourage all of council to volunteer at the fair because I know they need volunteers. There's jobs where you can sit down all day if you want. You don't have to walk around or different kind of things. It's not hard work. It's just a matter of making the commitment. And I enjoyed doing it. I've committed myself this year. I've also asked my grandchildren if they would come out and volunteer. And so I encourage everyone to take part because we want a fair like we used to have, if possible. So, and I'm glad that we can give them whatever money we can. I've been going out asking different people if they want to donate. I haven't got response yet because I just did it yesterday, but hopefully somebody will.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for that, Helen. And again, totally agree on the volunteer. It definitely takes a community to put on an event such as the size of the fair, and there's lots of members always involved. I know they could always use more though. You're right.
Oh, sure.
Okay, is there any further questions or comments? I want to shift over now to the financials and the request itself. I know Jennifer.
I do.
Oh, sorry.
I do.
I'll shift it
I
over
do.
to Melba.
I do too, Mark.
Yeah. I want to say that I think it's a continuation of wellness in our community. We know we need that from COVID. We know you've organized, Mark, the Wellness Day. That was really great. We've had solidarity and bread and cheese, but we need to continue these good things in the community that encompasses all the community. And that's what you have here. I can hear it when Marion gave me a call. She's very enthusiastic. She's an ambassador, and she's very, very caring for the community, and no doubt all the rest are. I can see how you've divvied up your tasks that need to be done. So you're going to be certainly focusing on the social aspect too of the fair, the arts and crafts, skills of our people, whether it be arts and crafts or cooking or sewing, and the children. That's really great. As Audrey had said, have you included the children? Because a few years, I think they were left out. So I think it's really important that we continue here and really support the fair as it should be. As Helen had mentioned, we need this old-fashioned fair where all these skills and competitions and things like this need to be in our community. So you've covered a lot. So I certainly agree with all the working group, and you're not just sitting there raising your hand. You're actually getting out there and working for the community, for the wellness of our community. So whatever we decide here, I see it's $59,850. And I wanted to bring up, I understand some of the prize areas from last year was not paid. So I wonder how that came about and if that can be corrected. Like it's not a good thing when they expect something, whether it's a parent, a caregiver, or children who have displays and work that's being done, and they're not really paid for what they were promised. So if we can correct that, that would be really great. And I want to thank you all for doing such work in the community. We know we've had many deaths and illnesses in our community, and hopefully this is another wellness event that'll bring our spirits up. Thank you.
Yeah.
Now for that, Melba, great comments. Thank you. Okay, Council, I have Ruby who would also like to make comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to share that we've met with Leslie and her team and from the Farmers Association, just trying to figure out, okay, how we can contribute to help, like returning the old days, the farm machinery that usually is brought to the fair, and if we could just get a handle on how much you've done to date and what the farmers need to do about that, because it does cost a few dollars to bring those machines in. So just a thought there. And another thought, in my old former life, we used to bring all the health services to the fair to show the community the services that are being provided to them and the opportunity to ask questions about the different programs. They filled the hall. We've been in the hall now the last couple of years with a booth, but there's only us and a few others. So they could fill the hall on all the stuff they're doing. It's a lot of things that maybe the community don't realize because it's not brought out there enough. So those are just two suggestions I'm saying to not forget. That it could really help the fair, and all those different kind of seeds we can provide. The people don't even know what some of the seeds are. You know, it's just be a nice time to see some of the old ways. That's what you're talking about.
No,
What's a fair without that?
Yes.
I totally agree, and thank you, Now, Ruby, for your comments. And maybe this is where we could also do a step further once we get the financial component complete, because I know just during my time at the fair as well, we always tried to have a little bit of, it was always an event to have a little bit of everything for someone. And, I think one important piece is that agricultural piece, right? I know as we're getting into, talking about food sustainability as well in this time and age and so forth. But also the educational piece, which we touched on earlier with the involvement of the schools and so forth. So I think all in all, I do agree it's much needed. I think maybe what we can do to Ruby's point is maybe like we did in the previous years with our parades. As you know, we've been trying to really amp up community involvement and like Melba's comments of community wellness events and so forth. And so one of those pieces that we've done is to have all of our departments involved in as many of our community events and annual events. So maybe that's another directive that we can make to help the fair in terms of getting booths involved, to have all of our departments set up at the fair, so that again, you can have those information booths, and so that community can, if they're not informed about what types of programs and services exist and what people are doing within the different departments. So maybe that's something that we can also start to look at, or rather look at by a directive to get departments all involved at this year's fall fair.
That would be great.
Okay, so maybe what I'll do then at this point is I want to check in really quickly with Jennifer. I know Jennifer and Wayne, this was a take back item as to where these dollars can come from. So really just want to have a conversation around the financial pieces. If either Jennifer or Wayne can speak on the source of funds identified, if council were to pass the resolution for the full amount, or if not, if there's an alternative to our finance follow-up. So over to you, either Jennifer or Wayne.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Sorry, I just realized I had my camera closed there. So yeah, from a finance perspective, it looks like we would be able to draw this from OFNLP funds, if that's something that council wanted to do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that, Jennifer. So at this point in time, I will look for a resolution for the amount of $60,000 from the source of funds identified as the OFNLP dollars. It's moved by Audrey, seconded by Sherry Lynn. Further questions and comments? Over to you, Carrie.
No, I was just gonna move or second it.
Oh, okay. Thank you for that, Carrie. Are there any further questions or comments to the motion? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed?
I just have a question.
Sure, Helen?
I thought it was 69,850.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was actually what the budget that they came in after the fact of the original request. So we had our team, our finance, look to the original request, which was the $60,000. Unless you're looking to make an amendment to the motion, that is what we were working the basis of the original
I'm
request.
looking to make an amendment. If we can afford the 69,850, let's do that.
Okay, I'll look to the mover and seconder to rechange the value of 69, the total amount of your latest documents. Is that okay with the mover and seconder?
Good for me.
Okay, it's good with Audrey, good with Sherry Lynn. No problem. Thank you for that amendment, Helen. So it's for the total budget that was received. It's in your current documents within Dropbox, and we'll pass that over again, Jennifer, for the total amount.
Chief,
Are there
can we
any
make it
further?
just
Sorry, Sherlyn.
Can we just make it 70?
Yeah, yeah, totally. Is that okay with the mover? To flat rate?
Me.
Okay, thank you for that, Audrey. So it'll be again still from the source of funds identified as OFNLP of the 70K. Are there any further questions or comments to the motion?
Thank you very much.
Okay, seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Any
Favor.
opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Motion to waive second reading, moved by Audrey, seconded by Sherry Lynn. All in favor? Any
Favor.
opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. I also, council, want to work off of Ruby's suggestion, and maybe I'm wondering if we can look to entertain a motion to have a directive of all of our departments to be involved in this year's fall fair as a setup as a booth. So that's a director from council. Is there a mover? Move from Sherry Lynn. Seconder? Second by Nathan. Are there any further questions or comments? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. So I'll work with Darren, if we can work with your office to get that out to all of our department directors and so forth, so that they can start to plan to get involved at the fall fair. Sherry Lynn.
I'll move second reading.
Moved by Sherry Lynn to waive second reading. Is there a seconder? Second by Nathan. All in favor? Any
Favor.
opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Okay, just really quickly before I head back to, I want to give opportunity. I know there was a comment in the chat box from Lindsay Hill, who I believe is in charge of Kids Day. Kids Day has always been a challenge in the past, so I want to give some opportunity for community to hear what all is being planned, and hopefully we could get more of our kids involved at Kids Day. So maybe if I could just a couple minutes over to you, Lindsay.
Oh yeah, just really quickly. I wanted to just kind of say that we're looking to add more. It's always kind of been a quick kids day, so we're looking to add, some athletic events, some STEM events, like having these cool science demonstrations and activities that kids can do, and then again with crafting. So trying to offer different options for them. But that was kind of I was kind of just offering that as another thing, that the schools technically, like to Audrey's question, like they're not really going to be involved that way, but that's the kids who are going to the schools will be engaged that way. And Kids Day is always Friday, right? That's the PD day once they come back. So yeah, I just wanted to speak to that a little bit, that we're going to be having some new and exciting events this year, and look forward to it. And also I'm in contact with Chuck Erin Hill to she's gonna help, and she works for health services, so she's gonna help do some events there as well. Yeah
Okay, now for that, Lindsay, do appreciate again all of the efforts and contributions. I know it always takes a team of dedicated community members and volunteers to make the fair a success. So want to say now again to each of you for joining us this morning. And again, always, as you can see, overwhelming support of the annual Fall Fair. And please just keep up the great work and see where we can further assist if council is available for volunteer. I know again they're always looking, to Helen's point, always looking for volunteers during the fair, and so please reach out to any of the members of the Ag board to see when and how you can get involved further. But with that being said, I want to wish you all the best of luck of this year's fall fair, and we'll definitely be there supporting as well.
Yeah, we thank you for your support,
Mark?
and together as a community, we can make this all happen and get back to some good community involving the elders and the youth and community members. Yeah.
I love that. Thank you so much, Noah. Leslie. Sorry, Melba.
Yeah, I just wanted to go back to volunteering. I certainly will volunteer, but I'm wondering if the fair board could send a list of the areas that need to be covered. That way we would actually pick and choose what days and how many hours and all that could be volunteered by the majority of council, whoever's able and willing to do volunteer work. Thanks.
Certainly, we will definitely do that.
Good suggestion. Thank
you.
you for that.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for that, Melba. Okay, thank you, Leslie, and to everybody on the fair board. I hope you have a good rest of your day. And again, look forward to further supporting.
Yeah, thank you very much. Again,
Thank you.
Take care.
take care. Thank you.
Okay, council, we're going to continue moving through our agenda here. The next item is our adoption of the general finance minutes of June the 19th. Looking to a mover and seconder when you're ready for passing of the minutes. Looks like Nathan is moving on the adoption of the minutes. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Greg. Are there any further questions or comments in relation to the minutes? Okay, seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Okay, our next item is, this is again another follow-up item. I know this item's been here before in relation to the social services working collaboratively with the Farmers Association. You'll see the recommendation on our agendas, and you should have the necessary documents within your Dropbox. So with that being said, I'll look to pass the floor to both, I believe Arliss is on the line from social services, as well as Ruby Jacobs from the Six Nations Farmers Association. So with that being said, good morning, Arliss, and good morning, Ruby. Maybe I'll pass it to you first, Arliss, to give us a high-level overview, and then any further additional comments or input from you as well, Ruby. So over to you, Arliss.
Good morning. We've been assisting the Farmers Association with this grant application, and the request today is to do a letter of support so we can submit the application to help grow the Farmers Association and website, and education for the community. So it goes nicely with the Fair Board, the Agricultural Society, what they're working on. So mostly providing the clerical work through Sherry Liquors with the budgeting on the application process. So that's our role in this, is just supporting the Farmers Association and connecting with our clients to be successful in their gardening and returning back to agricultural, as we've kind of lost that in our food sustainability. So I'll pass it over to Ruby from the farmers.
Thank you, everybody, for having us to come on here to get a BCR that supports the submission of this application to the Agri-Diversity Program from Agricultural Canada. And this will be a 5-year program. It's really quite interesting concept that's put forth by social services, and it's called Grow Your Garden project. So here this diversity, the government's intent, it seems to be, is that all folks of a community would be included in a project, and to try and bring folks together and promote the acceptance of the concept of diversity. But this is the way social has taken on to try and do that, and to make help our folks become more self-sustainable and independent in their ability to work together to grow through growing gardens. So they're predicting this type of a program whereby there'll be 10 plots this year and reach up to 50 plots in the next 5 years. So we would increase every year, and it's supposed to be a national attempt, so a national regional attempt. So through our internet media programming, we can reach out across Canada to all the different communities who can use this as an example for their own community to proceed forth too. So that's how we would meet the national provincial component of this program. So they would have, like I say, the 10 gardens so far in different areas of the community, and moving up as we hope each year to 50. So Arliss, do you want to pick up anything there that I've missed, or Sherry, on the outline of the program? I'll say that the farmers component here will be our horticulturalist will help oversee, along with their colleague, to make sure that these gardens are successful, that people will learn all the components, the growing gardens, and working with Mother Earth and learning the traditional aspect of it. There can be a whole series of events happen from it, like classes such as, as different steps like canning, storing, purchasing, licensing. There's a whole gamut of information that goes along with successful gardening, and trying to make sure that our folks would be successful, so that they would keep on growing and then passing it down through their families. So Arliss, I'll just be quiet now and you go ahead again.
Well, that's all I was going to say, is that it's more like introducing and being supportive there, because we know, and we're going to connect with health service as well, because we committed last year, or during COVID, a number of garden boxes. So part of the plan is to follow up with the garden boxes we provided, rain barrels, so that a lot of them were not successful. So hopefully connecting with the Farmers Association, they would provide that support as well, so that the individuals trying the gardening would know and be successful with producing vegetables and other mostly vegetables, right? Because I'm thinking of like fruits and fruits and bigger trees are not right in our immediate plan, but could be. So that's part of it, is providing that support. Those that have attempted the garden before will be provided with that support. Sherry can kick in as well.
Thank
Go ahead,
you.
Sherry.
One of the major indicators that we found was that people are coming to social services for food support, food vouchers. And so across most social service departments, they're finding that that will be a pressure going forward to always have to hand out food vouchers or gift cards. So what we propose is that to become self-sustainable through growing your own garden and also through social services. We know that bringing the family together into growing a garden is good to help build the strong families. And by using the Six Nations farmers, technology and know-how, we will be leaning on them for assistance with planting, monitoring and caring for the garden, and then harvesting. So that's how the Farmers Association is going to circle in through this program to help our community grow their own garden and move forward. And we started with the corn, beans, and squash in the beginning. So like the prior presentation had stated, that we need to find out what it is that each individual family or community garden, what would they like to grow as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nyawa, to each of you for introducing this recommendation and item. I know that I see there's a couple hand raised, but I just wanted to clarify the piece before I go to those hands raised on the set aside. So the fourth line, the 2676 fourth line, formerly described as our sustenance, be set aside for the use and benefit of the farming. So there's kind of really there's two asks really, is that set aside and as well as the application. Is that correct? I just want to clarify that.
You're saying like to use the land at our sustenance property, Mark?
Yes.
Yeah, that was in the ask, because in our conversations with the Farmers Association, they had originally used the behind the greenhouses and for gardening, and then they're part of this grant we should be able to use to sustain and rejuvenate the use of those greenhouses that are there.
Okay, yeah, see that, and that's my point of clarification of, is that one a stipulation to be of as well as as the, like, say if you are successful in the application, that there's obviously a place to do this work, and obviously there's we want to see those greenhouses in use, and so what better opportunity than to have this? I just want to clarify that.
Yeah, and then hopefully it's not just for the, it's for the community and availability to get plants even. I know that the farmers would do some of the seedling growth, because even to buy a single plant this spring was like $3 in some places, right? And then you're taking the chance whether it's going to even grow to produce any produce. So this way, hopefully the plants, if there's any charge, would be, or if there's any charge, would be available for those individuals that wanted to plant gardens.
Great. Okay, thanks for that clarification, Arliss. I see a number of hands at this point raised. I'll start with Nathan, over to Helen, Sherry Lynn, and then Audrey. Nathan, you have the floor.
Yeah, thanks, Jace. Just a quick question around whether or not I understand there's a current tenant as well at our sustenance, correct? And just confirming that we had discussions with that tenant, that there'll be further work done.
Okay, thanks for that, Nathan. I'll just check in with Darren on that point.
Yes, Nathan, if you look at the resolution, it's speaking to a portion of that site. So I think there needs to be additional discussions just to clarify, right of way access, that sort of thing. But yes, it's a portion of the site, so it would encompass the land and the greenhouses, because currently the Survivor Secretariat does not utilize any of those assets.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Nyawa, for that. Nathan, over to you, Helen.
I just wondered if was health with this in any way, because was health not giving out bags of veggies and different things to everybody? do they not kind of get involved in gardening? So are they part of this as well? They should be if they're not.
We planned
Especially-
on asking them to be part of it. We tried to work with them before, but it didn't pan out. And we also tried to get our sustenance prior to, and there was quite a large rental required, and farmers don't have any money, so we couldn't take advantage of that. But the year we had the garden there, it was a fabulous garden, and but it was the council granted us use of it for 1 year. Just a little bit of the history, but it would have been an outrageous fee. I think it would have been $70,000 per year to rent that, and they don't have money to do that. So it would have to be just to let them use it. It's not doing anything all these years, so.
Right. Okay. So I want to interrupt really fast because I know Arliss did mention already the piece on the health services portion. So Arliss, will you be working further on to Helen's point on the collaboration, the inclusion of health?
Yes, we will.
Okay, perfect. Thank you for that.
Good
Is there
to
any
hear.
further questions or comments, Helen?
Oh, I'm just saying it's good to hear they're going to start collaborating.
Yes, agreed. Okay, thank you, Nyawa, for that. I'll now shift over to Sherry Lynn.
Mine was just kind of the same lines of Nathan in the sense of the land, like how much land, if we can add all that in there. And are those greenhouses up to par to have things in there? So I just was wondering those things.
Sure. So we can, yeah. So to Darren's comments as well. There's obviously going to have further conversations with the current tenants of the access to the land of the portion of what we're setting aside, and as well as part of the program of this application, I would assume would help in the fixing up the greenhouses itself, because there were already obviously some issues with them that needs a little bit of upgrade. So that would help assist. Okay, I'll shift over.
Melba?
Sure, I'll add you to the queue, Melba. The next speaker I have in line is Audrey.
Thanks, Mark. My question is, I can make the statement that the farmers will help you plant. By that, does that mean that they will bring their tractors to your property and plow up your garden for you? And to make sure, like, well, advanced, maybe even the year before. And so that you can plant your garden. And what other help are they providing? And how will the average person on Six Nations be able to access the farmers group to get some help? Nyawa.
Okay, we do have a horticulturalist that's knowledgeable on gardening, very knowledgeable on gardening, and is able to assist with information. And as far as the equipment goes, they would help each of the folks seeking information on what to use, where to get it, and how to use it safely is another thing. So there would be pretty much looking at it hands-on to guide the folks that are working at their gardens to be successful. So it is a lot of work. You got to keep going with your propagating seeds. First of all, you got to actually find them, collect them, to know where to get them. We can provide information on that. And how to propagate them, that is, like, do starter plants, and then get them, when to put them in the ground, what kind of care you give them as they grow, and monitor throughout the growing period until harvest. And then there's harvesting details on each and every product you grow. It would be the person's choice on what they grow, and then harvest that, and how to preserve for future into the winter and so on, store the food, and if they got excess, how to sell it and make a few dollars. And as far as the farmers' overall project, with the food sustainability, they want to make sure that there would be this will go on into the future, and they will be able to have the ability to help people sell their products to the farm center for sale or elsewhere if they so wish. But anything to do to make it go on into the future, so we have stable food source here, and it's secure food that's grown properly and safely, and proper marketing and communication of the marketing. So that's kind of the whole gamut of what could happen or what's planned to happen. We're working on that summit also for the whole community, so everybody takes part in it, and it'll be a community-wide thing that's owned by the community and not just individually owned or so on.
Okay,
That's-
thanks, Ruby, for laying that out. I'm sure I see Audrey has a follow-up.
Yeah, Ruby, are they going to be able to use their equipment to go down to people's houses and plow up their garden for them so that they can plant a garden? I don't know of anybody who has just a tractor to go and do all that work.
No, they have rototillers and so on. See, we're starting with Arliss's projects as a 10 by 10 garden. It's small. A tractor and a machinery would be way too big. You need smaller implements, and we have our person knows what implements that they would advise that each the gardeners would need to actually do the work of the gardening, because it's but it out in the one if we were able to use the land out in our sustenance, they certainly would use tractors there.
I think this, and thank you for your response, but I just want maybe to Audrey's point, if maybe I'm misunderstanding, but I think Audrey, are you asking Ruby, would the farmers be able to assist, say, if a homeowner wanted to, because I know one of the biggest challenges is equipment, right? So if you wanted to start to build your own garden, it's difficult to get access to say, for example, a rototiller, or if they were going at a bigger size, maybe an equipment. So is the farmers willing to assist community members on an individual basis for their homes? I mean, I think this is a question outside of the application. Is that correct, Audrey? Sorry, Audrey, you're on mute.
Yes, because a lot of people would like to garden in their own property.
Yeah, they have a couple of rototillers they can use right now, and shovels and hose and stuff like that. We have that we can lend it to them, but there's ways to get that for the individual too. Like before, we had worked with the 10 families with 4-H, and we got them all the tools they needed for their gardens, and they all had successful gardens. So
okay, so it is possible. Thank Nyawa for that. Thanks, thank you, Ruby. I want to shift over at this point to Melba, and then over to Greg, and then I see Arliss has raised her hand. So Melba, you have the floor.
Yeah, I think it's going back in time again, bringing forward our togetherness with the family and supporting one another. It's certainly we complain of the hard work isn't there for children and family members anymore, and it's way beyond carrying out the garbage. And I think it's going to be very beneficial for us emotionally, physically, spiritually. I think we need to learn how to give Mother Earth thanks, which can be done. And so I think it's growing together, eating together, working together, learning together. Families, I think, becoming closer and benefiting from a stronger relationship, and learning through freezing, as was mentioned, canning, cooking together, all kind of things that can be done together if we can slow down a bit. So I think it's a lot of benefits, and I certainly support the community plan in many ways as has been outlined, and I would certainly make that a motion to support the Six Nations Farmers and Social Services Department joint proposal in the amount of $200,000 per year for 5 years. So I certainly will make that motion after further comments are made. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nyawa, for that. Melba, maybe at this point in time, I will look, as you have put a motion on the floor, as Melba as a mover. Is there a seconder? And I'll look to entertain the remaining of the hands. Seconded by Greg. Further questions, comments? Back over to you, Greg.
Yeah, just a comment and a question. Yeah, thanks, Arliss and Ruby, for bringing this forward. It's a very good idea. I think also having more departments involved is very good, and it'll help the community overall. One of the questions I had, did you reach out to, as they had trouble with their greenhouses, and they seem to be up and running now, is the Guyana say, have you reached out to them at all to see if they could provide any advice or help in your regard?
We have in the past, before COVID, worked with them when we actually did the big garden. They let us propagate in their greenhouse and so on. So they're very much in favor of working together. I don't see a problem. And as we were finishing the community farm center plan, we see everybody taking part. That was the idea of the suggestion of the summit, to bring everyone together and see how they see it all getting put together for actual implementation. And so that's it would be everybody, every entity in the community that could have a say in how it all should roll out together, and we would come forth as a strong community on how to do it. So we thank you for supporting that motion to have that summit, and that will happen there. But this is just a little start with Arliss and me to try and or the farmers to try and get a start. We don't know if we'll get approved, but we want to submit this to try and get approved and see where we get with it. And really, they're very dedicated. I know this will go. So, and the farmers are behind it. They've moved and seconded it and everything too. So we need a BCR to accompany this proposal, and that's why we're here asking for that. But in the big picture, everybody will be involved, Greg, okay? In our view and hope, every one of our entities in the community that wish to, where they'll all be invited. And we just put a proposal for the funding for that to the Six Nation Community Development Program.
Great. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you, Nyawa, for that, Ruby. Sorry, Greg, just wanted to follow up. Did you have any further questions or comments to Ruby's response?
No, just that I support it, Chief, and thank you.
Okay, all right, Nyawa, for that, Greg. Over to you, Arliss.
Yeah, just to follow up on some of the questions, like with the smaller equipment, that's where we would make the link with health services. We understand that they have a number as well of staff dedicated to gardening and small implements that we hope to be able to partner and share with, and also with discussions with the farmers. They've already started implementing and refurbishing the greenhouse at I.L. Thomas School. So, you know, the plan to have gardening and seed propagation as part of the learning that the farmers would do with the schools, as well, to promote, you know, the whole gardening, the whole growth of seeds, to, like what Sherry said, you know, canning and food preservation. So bringing it more to the forefront, I guess, and making it community-wide, as Ruby is saying, you know, rather than just little pieces here and there that are successful, but how do we grow it? And so this seed money and this proposal will help us implement and create some videos and access to the horticulturalists at the Farmers Association to do that.
Okay, now, excuse me, now for that, our list as well. Are there any further questions or comments? We do have a mover and seconder on the resolution. I think it's been a really good discussion, and again, looking to the even further bigger picture of the involvement. I'm glad to hear Ruby's comments of, getting everybody. Everybody will receive an invitation to see, what role they'll be playing throughout this, as we look to food sustainability in the bigger picture. Okay, that being said, I'm not seeing any more hands raised. So at this point, we'll go to the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Motion to waive second reading.
Motion, Melba.
Moved by Melba for second reading. Seconded by Greg. Further questions or comments? Seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Okay, Ruby and Arliss, now so much for joining us on this item. And Ruby will look to get that BCR and letters further support over to you as quickly as possible.
Nyawa, everyone. We appreciate your support.
Yeah, well, thank you. Have a great day. Okay, Council, excuse me, sorry. We're going to continue moving along our agenda here. The next item we have is in relation to SNGREC. This is coming out of our Public Works Department for the Drainage Improvement Project. You'll see the resolution, or rather recommendation, on their agendas. You should have all your, again, necessary documents within Dropbox. I have our Director of Public Works, Mr. Michael Montour. Good morning and welcome to our General Finance. Mike, if you want to maybe give a high-level overview to this item, and we'll look to open the floor for further questions and comments. So good morning.
Good morning. Now for the opportunity. Good morning, Chief Council and Community. Michael Montour, Director of Public Works. So this project is in relation to a lot of the work that we've done in the past and are trying to currently do for drainage. So as people may or may not know, the 2019 community plan had highlighted drainage as a priority issue, and then we did a 2022 survey of community priorities, and drainage came back as part of as one of the high priorities as well on that. So in 2016 and 2017, we completed different flood remediation plans and studies on the SNGREC. So SNGREC, for visualization purposes, I guess, it covers the west side of our territory, and the Boston and Rogers Creek covers the east side. So we've done studies on both of those separately, and the studies really keyed in on different storm events. So the 5, 10, 25, the 50, the 100-year storm. And it factored in a bit of climate change in that and different modeling. And they recommended different things as far as impacting and keyed in on areas that impact either public infrastructure, community buildings, or residential homes. So the SNGREC one is what we're focused on. We got money a bit of money to address some of the flood damage centers in there. There were 6 flood damage centers in the SNGREC that were identified in our studies. And I know that there was an environmental task force struck as part of this term of the elected council, and a subcommittee or a group was made, a working group was made with Councillor Sherry Lynn being the chair, and we've been meeting and preparing. We decided that we were going to focus in on the drainage flood damage center on 3rd line, which is just west of the Oliver M. Smith School, as that was one of the most heavily impacted as far as homeowners in that area with the money that we have, because we looked at budgets and we looked at availability, and that's what really fit into the money that we were able to secure from the Small Communities Fund. So we've done a lot of work to engage those property owners directly. We did a community information session at Oliver M. Smith for those affected community members, and we've been talking to them about agreements to get access to do the work and then maintain the drains. And I guess internally for the community's information, council's hired a technical services and drainage manager. So we're looking to, beef up on the administrative side and get more involved in addressing, a lot of the drains and constructing drains to address a lot of the flooding in the areas. So this is a recommendation. We've put this out on a public procurement website called Bids and Tenders. We've had 2 bids come back, and the bid from County Line is within our budget, so we're looking to award that. And yeah, I think that's a pretty good overview of it. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. Yeah.
Okay, now so much for that overview, Mike. I'll look to open the floor up for any questions or comments in relation to the recommendation. I'll first begin with Carrie and then over to Sherry Lynn. Carrie, you have the floor.
Yeah, Mike, once the new ditches are in, or at least the existing ones and cleaned out, culverts would likely be needed for the farmers to cross because that's probably why some of the ditches that the flooding is caused by farmers crossing and it's just backing up. So I quickly went through the briefing note that you had here, and I didn't really see anything about that, or is that in the contingency fund that you would have to use at the end? I'm not too sure. And if County Line had to bring in soil, I don't know if that's possible either, but would it be hopefully clean soil? That's all I have right now.
Okay, thanks, Nyawa, for that. Your comments, questions, Carrie. I'll look to Mike for your response.
Great questions, Carrie. So what we're doing is we've discussed with the homeowners or the property owners as far as, access back to their, let's say, back 40, so to speak. And we are making allowances to install culverts for those accesses because the drain is going to be quite extensive. So making sure that we're doing that planning, and I understand we're installing, 2 or 3 of those as per the property owner's direction. And as far as soil, so we're digging some, I don't even know if I'd call these drains, they'd be more like channels. So we're going to be having to get rid of soil. So I know that we've asked them to budget to get rid of it in a way that complies with all the provincial regulations off reserve, but maybe there's an opportunity to work with property owners nearby. So we'll be exploring those within our working group and the project team. Yeah.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Okay, Nyawa, for that, I'll now shift over to Sherry Lynn.
Yes, I just wanted to say this has been a long going process, this drainage, and I just wanted to say a great job that Mike and his team, but also KL Martin and his staff, to be able to hold that information session and be able to go to the property owners to make sure that we have everybody's agreement and being able to do this. So there was a lot of work and process for this to happen. So I'm glad to finally it's coming to an end and able to start construction, because we got to hurry up and let's get moving on this before. So great job, and I'll move this, Chief.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. And I do agree with your comments again. Yes, great job all around. This has been a very long time coming. So thank you, Nyawa, again for all your work as well. Sherry Lynn, it's moved by Sherry Lynn for the recommendation on the agenda. Is there a seconder? Seconded by Nathan. Are there any further questions or comments? Okay, seeing or hearing none, I will go to the vote. At this point, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Motion to waive second reading, moved by Sherry Lynn, seconded by Nathan for second reading. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Okay, thank you, Nyawa, so much, Mike, for joining us this morning. I hope you have a good rest of your day.
You too.
Thank you. Okay, Council, we're going to continue moving along here. The next item we have on our agenda is Habitat for Humanity. This is coming out of our housing department. You'll see the recommendation on your agendas, and again, should have your necessary backup documents within Dropbox. So with that being said, I'll say good morning to Liliane and ask her to give us a high-level overview to this recommendation. Good morning and welcome, Liliane.
Good morning, everybody. I know a few of the councillors that were present at the Onondaga 1 build were aware that we were planning a second build, which is exactly the same as the original Onondaga 1 that's in progress right now on Harold Road. It's the exact same townhouse, just being built right beside it. So we're trying to, I guess, kind of grasp onto that economies of scale by starting this project while we have a team already on site. So essentially we're looking to partner with Habitat for a second build, exactly the same as the first. I know that Onondaga 1 was delayed, and so the pricing that we received for that one was based on 2021 numbers, which is why we see about an 8% increase in cost, which kind of aligns with inflation. And we're looking at 1.729 million to build the Onondaga 2 townhouse. It's 5 units. We've got 2 1-bedroom, 2 2-bedroom, and 1 3-bedroom unit. And it equates to roughly $204 per square foot, which is considerably lower than we look at for single family dwellings. And this townhouse is looking to address the 251 applicants that are currently on the housing residential rental wait list. So we have Habitat on standby. They're looking to start immediately so we can get foundation in the ground before frost hits, which is a problem we ran into last year as it was delayed to November. So yeah, just looking for council to approve this contract so we can get going. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Nyawa, for that. Liliane, I'll look to open the floor up for any questions or comments for Liliane. Is there any questions, comments? And if not, looking for a mover and seconder. Moved by Nathan, seconded by Audrey. Again, I'll call for any further questions or comments. Over to you, Greg.
Sorry, I got to hook up my headphones here.
No problem.
Thanks, Liliane, for the presentation. I just wanted to be clear that council's cost is 1.7. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct, Greg.
Okay, and then Habitat for Humanity is chipping in on the materials. Is that correct?
Yes, so what they do is they utilize gifts in kind from their corporate suppliers, so they can kind of capitalize on those economies of scale since they build so much. They have partnerships with companies like Home Depot and CGC, so they get them at a lower cost than general developers would. They also utilize volunteer labor, which is overseen by their build staff. And we also have a clause within this contract that they need to utilize as much local labor as they can for the things that they have to kind of subcontract. I know currently we have several local people working on the Onondaga 1. So we kind of gave them a list of contractors in the community and that we work with frequently at housing, and they've reached out to them, and as much as is possible where cost permits, they're utilizing that labor force.
So what I'm trying to get at is so the total cost to build that building, even with Habitat's help, would be about what they're going to kick in about what $600,000, I think, for for materials. Is that correct?
I'm not sure how much. I know if we look at other costs, so if we use a generic, say $300 per square foot, which the industry is kind of using as a standard right now, the cost of this project would be in excess of $2 million. So I think we can assume there that they're pitching in a significant portion through their corporate sponsors to make this build happen at a reduced cost. In addition to that, they're obviously not for profit. So this is what the contract, this is what they're expecting the cost to work out to. Anything in addition to that would be at their cost. And if there were a reduction on costs, say we were to go with a cheaper product or things were to be donated, that's cost savings for us. So that's just something that they wouldn't charge us for. We're seeing that now with the Onondaga 1 build. There were a few work order changes that I requested, like egress windows being put in the basement, so those safe to be utilized as living space, therefore increasing the living space by about 600 square feet. And we're seeing cost savings there because a lot of those have been donated. So the actual cost of that original contract is reduced as well.
Right. Well, that's just a point I was trying to make, is that this building to build could be in excess of 2.5 million, and what we're getting a pretty good deal here at 1.7. That's
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I was going just to add as well, Greg, it's nice to see really the beauty of these types of partnerships, just for that matter in what you're raising, Greg, in terms of, like, this cost savings and so forth, but as well as the involvement of local laborers. I mean, it's also assisting, some of our own members within their own, businesses and services that they offer. So again, it's nice to see that we're addressing, as fast and quick as we can the housing crisis we have, all while still looking at ways of partnerships. And I think it's again a win-win. So do appreciate as well, Lillian, all of the work that you and your team, and as well as the big Nyawatu Habitat for Humanity for again working. I know we've worked with them in the past and have had much success with their partnership. So I'll shift over to Sherry Lynn.
Yeah, just along the lines there, Chief. There's a lot of good work going on. I just want to know, at some point, can we get an update from housing, but also social too, of how many units that are actually going up, but also too is how many are we bringing down the wait list? Because there's a lot of units that are going up. So I would like to see making a dent into all these good works to show the community. Thank you.
That's a really good suggestion. Thank you, Nyawa, for that, Sherilyn. And you're right. There's a lot going on, and again, I think it's important to see to make sure community is aware of this good work. So you're entirely right, and we'll look to those pieces, and maybe perhaps Darren can add to it, or I'll look to question from Darren. He has his hand raised.
Yeah, thanks for that, Sherry Lynn. Coming up on the agenda shortly, we do have the development of a presentation for our annual General Assembly, which has been scheduled towards the end of August. And part of that is looking at what kind of impact we are going to have, not only in terms of current projects or those in progress or set to start, but also into the future. So a succession plan in terms of how do we bring down that wait list specifically. So it's not just housing, it's social, it's health, all the units, all the shelters, all the beds available for different sources. So we will go through that in a presentation format shortly, Chief.
Perfect. Do appreciate that. Thanks, Nyawa, for that, Darren. I see Helen has her hand raised.
Yeah, my question is this going into Harold Lane too?
Yes, it is.
Yeah, this is at
Because
Harold Road. It's right beside the one that's currently under construction, Helen.
So didn't we just approve something to go there last week too? I thought. Anyway, what's wrong with putting something next to the water treatment plant? Is there any reason why we don't do that?
So I
It
think
does have water. It services the bingo hall, so it should be able to service an apartment house.
Yeah. So actually, Helen, this is going to be, I think your questions and comments will be answered in Darren's next presentation on the infrastructure plan and so forth. This is all the exercise of land use, banned on lands, and everything else that we've been talking about. So I think we'll have a more engaged discussion shortly.
Glad to see we're having another humanity thing. The other one looked really nice.
Yes. Yes. So this is the second one now. Okay. Is there any further questions or comments? Okay. Seeing or hearing none, I believe I have a mover and seconder. Is that correct, Therese? Yeah, I do. Okay. Thank you for that. I'll look to calling the vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Motion to waive second reading. Moved by Audrey. Seconder. Seconded by Nathan. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Okay, well, thank you so much, Nyao and Liliane. Please keep up the good work. And again, look forward to seeing this into the next step and finalizing the completion. Take care and have a good day.
Mark, it's Hazel.
Hi, Hazel.
Well, finally you can hear me. I was just checking. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. Okay, Council, we're going to continue moving on the agenda here. I want to, if we can, just hold off on, I know we received the donation request on the U15 team. The letter of request is attached, but I wanted to check in with finance as well first on the donation fund and so forth, so that we're not, so that we're doing, again, across the board and fairly and equally. So wondering if we could defer this item until we can check in further with finance. Is that okay with council? I'm not seeing any opposition, so we'll bring this item back with a plan of action on how we could further support. And just really quickly, as I'm on this item, I want to wish everybody. I know we have a number of athletes here from Six Nations and Halifax for the North American Indigenous Games. So I want to give all of our athletes a huge shout out and wishing them well in each of their sports. Activities and events happening this week. Now, obviously, the opening ceremonies with Team Ontario, as you can see, was quite impressive, and it's always a quite inspiring event and time for our athletes attending the North American Indigenous Games. So, want to give a shout out to them. And at this point in time, also want to shift over to the update in what we were just discussing on the infrastructure task force, as well as our annual general assembly that we have planned for August. And so at this point, I'll pass the floor over to our CEO, Darren Jameson. Back over to you, Darren.
Thanks, Chief, and good morning, community. As you can see, we're well on our way to addressing a lot of the priorities that community had identified last summer. And I think it's apropos to look at having an update to community or report back to community, which hasn't happened in a number of years through an annual general assembly. We're calling it that because it's not really an AGM, which is more like a corporate sort of thing where you do financial statements and that sort of thing and have vote of shareholders. This is more a report on activities for this term of the council, and looking not only at that, but as a report card, but also all the good work that has happened and has happened throughout a pandemic as well. So I just wanted to kind of give some high level regarding that, Chief. So if people can indulge me, this could take a few minutes. I'm going to share my screen, and I do have some members of the Infrastructure Task Force, as well as the AGA Planning Committee on the call, including Ken Sandy. He's our GIS tech. We have Jennifer Court, obviously from Finance. We have Michael Montour. We have Liliane, who we just heard from, and Arliss on the call. And I think that they can also lend some perspective on the work that's happened over the last little while. So maybe what I'll do is I'll just kind of go through this quickly. So the purpose of this presentation really is to, let me just put this up as a slideshow. Let me get to the slideshow. Stop the share for a second so I can see where that is. There it is. From the beginning. Okay.
You'll just have to do a share screen as well.
Yeah,
Darren.
yeah. I'm just trying to get it to be a slideshow, and my bar is blocking it. Just give me one second here.
Just bear with us, community.
Yeah, take a second.
Darren, it should be at the top there at the slideshow tab.
Yeah, I just can't get it with this bar in the way here. Just give me one second here. Just gonna minimize that to the slideshow and from the beginning. Here we go. Everybody see that?
Sure.
Okay, so as I mentioned, we haven't had an AGA Six Nations for quite a while, in many years actually. So we have been able to book the community hall at Parks and Rec for August the 24th. And we're looking at having more of an evening session. So that will be presentations, food, entertainment, door prizes, etc. for community. So we're inviting all community to come out. The substance of what we're going to go through today will be part of that presentation, but there will be additions as well. And the other object that we'd like to do, Chief, and community and council, is to also prepare a booklet as a takeaway for everyone, kind of like an annual report that you see, but this is more of a term report. So really, it's an opportunity to report on activities for this term of council, provides a snapshot of the future plans that we've developed, as well as the tools that really help us to look at optimization, implementation, and adjustment as we move forward. The other thing that we wanted to socialize again, which we had done in a couple of previous meetings, is that this AGA is also a kickoff event for a Walk the Track, which is a friendship walk planned to bring awareness of Six Nations, our history, and then legitimacy of our court case, and to help restore relations and gain support for those living along the tracks. And that's planned to be early to mid-September. The dates have not been confirmed as of yet, but that is the plan. So these two events are linked, and just really to kind of get community out and together. It's post-pandemic. We were able to gather, and as we just had a really excellent presentation on the fair for mental wellness, and really just sharing all the plans and work that's been done. Again, here's the proposal, just in terms of the agenda for this presentation. I'm just going to quickly go through the first part because I've already spoken to some of this. In terms of a schedule for the AGA on the 24th of August, again, there will be a lot of comms that will follow this presentation, which will be going out over successive council meetings. So I think that was the request as well, was to not give to community a whole bunch of stuff to digest. There will be a lot in this presentation, but we will break it down so it's a little bit more digestible. So we'll have a main presentation AGA, we'll have food, entertainment. All of our booths will be there from departments to help if community has specific questions. And at the end of it, we'll have a drone show, which is really an exciting piece to also showcase the upcoming Walk the Track. And just to note that we're working with TAP Resources on helping us with all of this planning. So just getting into the presentation and sort of the flow of the AGA specifically, we would obviously have a section, or the first part of the presentation would be related to Chief and Council updates. Here's a few points raised here, and I did reach out to Tammy, the Chief's office, to look at developing a presentation piece on council updates. And I think we had done some excellent work with the retreat with Amy Lickers, and a report coming out of that in terms of political plan, governance action plan, activities that have happened, and those coming up. So that would be the substance, I think, and would be a good tool to help showcase some of that. So I just raised a few points here. I'm not going to read it out. It's there, and I will share this with council, by the way, after this. I know I realize you're just seeing it for the first time, but really we want to socialize and promote the upcoming events with community as well. Again, this is a big piece too that we talked about, is really what all of this work that we want to share with community is really a succession plan for the next term of council, the 59th council up and coming in. We've developed a 10-year financial plan that supports infrastructure builds to close that huge gap that we still have in the community, services gap that are linked to that in terms of service mapping to those facilities, housing, as we're all very, very well aware. We have a huge gap. Our wait list is 251 people on a rental wait list alone, along with lots of people wanting to build privately. So these tools, these plans that we have are really there for us to action what we can, given we have in the remaining of this term, but also for the next council. I've already gone through a lot of this in terms of the CEO team and the updates related to that. So I'm not going to spend a whole bunch of time on this. We went through it, I think, in my last CEO update, which was in an open session as well. So all the introduction to all of the new roles, some of the restructuring. This is the way we used to be restructured. We're looking at benching and really strengthening the core of the tree of the organization and shifting and really repositioning the organization to be more responsive and in a way to determine how best to invest community money, particularly if we get additional resources such as what's coming through the court case and settlements from the litigation. So I'm just going to skip through these because we've gone through these in a previous presentation. It's in the interest of time, Chief, and community. And again, they will be available and refined as we work through the next few weeks. So some of the projects, obviously, as I alluded to at the beginning, really what we set out to do is not just, we started with the community plan, the 2019 community plan, but we also supplemented that with a survey in May of 2022, where we had some really clear direction from community on some priorities. And here they are here in order. Obviously, because it was springtime, roads was high on the list. I think roads and infrastructure related to water and having clean drinking water in the community for all people in the community is a very high priority. Obviously, housing is number one and will be for some time. Mental health and wellness, I think that was impacted by the pandemic as well. So that's certainly part of our planning, and particularly in the area of services. A new lodge, basically more than doubling the footprint of the existing lodge. I believe the number is 64 beds, as well as a hospice. We have environment as one of the priorities. We have flooding and drainage, as we just spoke about on this call, this meeting this morning, which is being actioned as well as residency issues. So these were some of the priorities that community had identified through that survey last spring. And really we took direction from that to work on how we can improve what we do and how we do it. So housing was a major priority. I'll go through some of those projects that we have in the queue, some that are ongoing, to really put a dent in that. And I'll just pause here for a second and say that the projects that we've identified over the next few years in that succession plan for infrastructure will close the gap in housing approximately 75 to 80%. So in other words, that 251 people on the wait list will be reduced significantly through the projects that we've outlined in this plan. We've also shared, I know with Mike, some time ago, we did a road management plan, and we have some software to help inform how do we improve the roads over the next 5 to 10 years. There's obviously an improvement plan that goes along with that, that's commensurate with our ability to afford, as well as improvements along the way. Waterline phases have been designed. We did water connections for homes through George's Principal Funds. That was done during this term. We have waterline phases that can be accelerated. And again, I'll go through some of that through a Canada Infrastructure Bank loan, which is at a very low rate of 1% and is open to repayment at any time as well. Waterline phases that we've designed through our partners, obviously in the community, Kale Martin and others, will take 15 to 20 years to complete. However, if we're able to get the Canada Infrastructure Bank loan, and we can afford to get a loan and repayment on that loan, we can accelerate that to have the whole community done in 3 years. So that's an extremely good news story. Just to update on that, the application has been submitted. So we're just looking at their due diligence process through that. Some of the other things that we've worked on, obviously, we talked a little bit about this as well. We did an organizational review, which I've gone through in the previous presentation. We finished our compensation review with the assistance of Korn Ferry, and our HR and payroll departments did a lot of work on this. We're instituting that minimum living wage of $40,000. So no staff at Six Nations of the Grand River Elected Council will be making less than that. And we've moved to a 50th percentile of our peer groups across not only Ontario, but peer groups throughout Canada in terms of our pay levels. So that will greatly improve our retention and recruitment for the organization. The other thing is we purchased a council approved investment in a new HRMS system, which is human resource management system through UKG, and that's going to be implemented as well over the next few months, and we'll be ready to go full bore by the new fiscal. So community standards is another big area. This is a lot of collaboration, working not with our Justice Department, our office, and Chief and Council on those standards. One of the key ones that we just worked through recently was the community engagement standards. to provide guidance on the level of engagement that's needed, not just for external parties, but also for internal. Like an example might be if we're looking at changes to the residency bylaw, that needs to have community input through engagement. And the great thing about the engagement standards that have been developed is they've also developed a guidebook or guidelines to help determine the level of engagement that is going to be needed to make sure that community has adequate and sufficient input on any proposed changes. The other one obviously is environment and legal dumping. There's been a lot of that happening in the community. We've done as much as we can in terms of voluntary compliance. We need to move that forward in a bit more robust way. So that's also ongoing at the present moment. Child welfare legislative review is a very, very high priority as well. Again, justice has come to bear on all of these files and working in conjunction with partners, not just administratively, but politically as well. So again, the long-term planning that I spoke to is a 10-year plan, and it's matched to some GIS and service mapping. I have Ken Sandy. I'm going to bring him up, ask him to share or speak to a couple of maps that are in this presentation as well shortly. So that's the work of the infrastructure task force. It's really there to support and help to vet projects and determine the best use of our dwindling, really, unoccupied band lands, and really a more formal process for set-asides to make sure that we're doing it in the right way. We have connectivity and broadband task force, which is not as active as it once was, as we're working with First Nations Cable and Six Nations Internet on that presently, and I think there's some good news coming very shortly on that as well. We're looking at that. We instituted that early on in 2020 and 21. Environmental task force has really been a very strong mechanism that we didn't really have in the past. So we had an environment department, but it wasn't as active, certainly since I've been in the role. So that's been an interdepartmental group to really to identify, monitor, and curb those impacts. And that's why we're looking at standards under illegal dumping presently. We also have been hosting think tanks on, these are interagency meetings, looking at long-term planning and community investment frameworks, not just in capital, but in terms of our human resources, and even sharing our expertise across different agencies. So those have been very instrumental in helping to shape our plans within Six Nations of Grand River Elected Council. And of course, the Lifelong Learning Task Force, which has been active for a number of years. And they have shared their feasibility study in terms of programming and social facilities. Those have also been integrated into our ITF work and mapping. Again, this is just a recap of the community priority survey from May, just in terms of what community identified and the percentage breakdown of the number of times that folks indicated those were important. Obviously, housing and roads and water and the lodge were very, very high on the list. So this is just a pie graph that demonstrates those results. We took, and again, like I said, we took a cue from that to say, well, what do we do with our investments, our community investments from Six Nations of Grand River Elected Council perspective? And we've allocated resources, or will allocate resources based on these percentages. It doesn't exactly mirror the survey results, but it's kind of in line with our existing funding, as well as opportunities to advance projects that are eligible under, again, as I mentioned, this Canada Infrastructure Bank loan, as well as Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation for housing. This again is just a chart that is the summary of the previous two pie charts, gives you a little bit more detail just in terms of numbers. So this is basically a half a billion dollar investment plan for the next 10 years. That will significantly close our infrastructure gap in the community, and that is foundational for other activity and prosperity to happen in the community. And I just wanted to provide this as an additional something to look at in terms of those numbers. There's a lot of gap here. The overall gap is actually at least 1.6 billion in terms of the gap that exists in this community if you compare it to another municipality in the area. So we're going to update a lot of this data. So I just wanted to give this is sort of our master presentation deck. And we're trying to structure it basically on like pre-pandemic, how our operations were previous to the pandemic, and then how they were during the pandemic, and then how we're moving forward post-pandemic. So really, so here's some data, and this was also, some of this was shared previously as well, just in terms of during the pandemic, we still were able to provide service and continuity, even though it was done differently, and we had restrictions, lockdowns, reduced hours, and that sort of thing. But we're coming out of that, so we've seen a market increase in the points of service because of that. From 80,000 a year in the previous fiscal to approximately 120,000 in the last fiscal that just passed. Again, these are just some highlights in terms of the number of communications that went out. It just shows you the level of activity to help to inform community through the pandemic. So there's a lot of continuity of service and awareness that was built through that process. Post-pandemic operations data, again, this is information that was provided. And I wanted to credit Zach here. He's really done a lot of work on helping to put this together. He's on the call. So I may ask him for some comments later on. You're welcome, Zach. I'm gonna pause right here. I got a little bit of echo there. I'm not sure why. I'm going to pause right here, and I'm going to pass this over to Ken Sandy, who I believe is on the call. Ken, we've got a few slides that we have relative to our GIS mapping, where our projects are and where our future projects are planned to be. So if you wouldn't mind maybe walking us through a couple of slides, we'll start with this one, and I can advance to the other ones that we have in the deck here, and you can speak to those. So Ken, are you on the call, Ken? Are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
All right, thanks a lot, Ken. So I'll pass it right over to you, and you can just kind of give us a high level on these, and just let me know when you want to advance to the other slides.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, we've been going full bore with the mapping here for in preparation of the AGA. So there hasn't been a lot of recording of a lot of the past infrastructure here, but I just threw this slide on here just to show some of the old lot lines from the original lot lines from the on reserve here. I don't know if you want to go to the next one, Darren. Yeah, so this one here, this is the mapping we've done within the Herald Road developments here. So what's outlined in red is things that are occupied band lands is what we call it there. Some are for the majority of it's for housing, and then in the top corner is that library and archive center. But as part of the ITF group, what we've done here is we've mapped where there are current projects currently in development, like the for example, housings Onondaga 1 and Onondaga 2 townhouses, one of which is underway now, and I believe the other one is in the future. There's the there's also a planned 54 unit project between housing and social that's going to be going back there. There's also the phase 2 housing, 33 1/3 acre service lots. That's also, you'll see on that map there. So we basically, with the ITF, have just earmarked where these developments are going and where they're currently under construction. And yeah, a lot of this we'll have like printouts of these and things of that nature for the AGA. I don't know, you want to go to the next one, Darren?
Yeah, I just wanted to, you make the great point there, Ken. Like, I know it's hard to see these, but one of the things that we're planning as well is to have a continuous loop of the presentation on a lot of these maps on videos and screens at the AGA, not just in the main plenary area of the hall, but we've also secured the gym and some of the breakout rooms, i.e. the boardroom and some of the spaces in there, to allow people to go and socialize, look at the presentation on their own time, and engage with departments if they have any questions, but also to print out very, very large maps and put them out on tables so people can have a look at these in a little more detail. So I don't know, it is hard to see because there's a lot of details, but that is the other thing that we were hoping to do and planning to do for the AGA as well. So I just wanted to kind of make that point. Yeah, so I'll move to the next one. There we go.
Okay, yeah, so these are the potential sites for the Lifelong Learning Task Force. They've identified a number of schools, and they have a requirement of an acreage requirement for each of these sites. So through the ITF, we went through these and mapped. You'll see on the map here, the red, as I said previously, those are occupied band lands. The green are unoccupied. And just kind of as a preface to that too, I guess, in terms of the occupied band lands, I've actually on a separate map, which I'll have during the AGA, but I don't have it for the presentation here, but I kind of drilled down a little bit further into occupied band lands so that we will so that we have it recorded, which actual department or what those actual usages are for each of those lands. So I just want to say that that's also a part of this process here that will be probably in one of these sessions or in a display possibly at the AGA. I'll be showing things like that of that nature as well. But going back to this slide here, there's some sites for schools that the Lifelong Learning Task Force has identified. A secondary school, which we have these are just potential sites, of course, but we recorded that on up on Pauline Johnson Road there, north of the bingo hall. Potential site for a new JC Hill School. They're looking for 12.5 acres there. So that is in the large land purchase that council did behind where the new lodge site is going to be going. And then also a school transportation facility and a site for STEAM, which we put in that area around the where Polytech is. And then another one for the Everlasting Tree School, where that's been identified as being 9.9 acres required, and that's just a little further down the road on 4th Line there.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Ken. And we had a good discussion around housing, and there is a lot of land over across the river there in Pauline Johnson Road. There's a sufficient space for a lot more housing development up along there as well. And one of the other things that the council will recall we had looked at is a 200 unit, and it's actually been reduced now to 188 units of 1, 2 and 3 bedroom units apartment complex. And that would be, we've also placed that on the old Martin property where A6N is currently located. There's sufficient space there to accommodate that. And that would provide a significant reduction again in that wait list, really reducing it by some 75% with that project alone. So that's an important project that we have concepts for. We have, I would say, a Class C estimate on the cost of approximately $115 million. But again, it could be financed through CMHC at either 95 or 100%. So I think there's a lot of really good plans that we put in place here, as well as the space to accommodate these developments within the community on the band lands that we have, and not really encroaching. And we're also being very respectful. Ken, maybe you can speak a little bit as we're on this slide about being respectful of green space, watersheds, sort of those environmental restrictions that kind of doesn't allow us really to build in terms of the entirety of these parcels. So maybe you could just speak briefly about that, Ken.
Yeah, sure. That's one of the considerations we're putting into this, the idea of best usages of unoccupied badlands is we'll be putting in some environmental concerns in terms of where floodplains are, where there may be sensitive areas. That's something that's going to be actually shown as well at the AGA. So that's something to be we're working on that definitely. And the whole idea behind the thing is that it's going on with the idea of having a best use plan for each of these unoccupied badlands here, whether that be residential or commercial, and it'll be based on, like Darren had said, not only environmental concerns, but things like, well, where there's currently water line, and I know that there eventually be water line everywhere, I guess, but and where there's currently 3-phase power, because that's one of the layers in the ITF mapping we have as well. So there's a number of factors there involved anyway, but definitely environmental concerns are going to be built into these this idea of best use planning for unoccupied badlands.
That's great. Thanks, Ken. And I think that you pointed out another point is, like, the maps that we show within this presentation here today, there will be other layers of mapping if you have too many layers on one map, it's hard to see what's there. So we'll have like separate maps, like one for housing, one for environmental zones, one for commercial zones, with just to kind of provide that ability to look at that as a snapshot more clearly. I think the important thing is that these layers do come on top of one another, and it basically gives some sort of conditions around what can or can't happen. So that's the key. And that's really been the strength of the ITF, the Infrastructure Task Force, is all departments participating along with our tech people like Ken, really valuable to be able to have this tool and at some point in the future, also on our mobile devices, to be able to pull up and look at these situations on our phones. You know, there's a lot of potential here, but we're building the tool, and the tool is pretty much there that can be used to help with action plans going forward. So I just wanted to highlight that as well. So thanks, Ken. I'm going to just kind of quickly go through a couple other slides. I know it's a lot of information. I just wanted to quickly just kind of highlight that we have all of this data in this presentation, just in terms of our current asset holdings for housing. That was a request from council. So you can see the units that we currently have in our portfolio and what the wait lists are for those units. We can't really do much about home ownership. I mean, that's for individuals through our housing loan program. So we want to do, in just respect of that, you will note on the Herald Road, there's 33 lots that we want to service and make available to community members. So I don't think that's ever been done before. So that would be surveyed off, and those people would actually buy those lots from Six Nations Council within that space. It already has the infrastructure, and we can service those lots quite easily and provide those. So that helps to address that backlog as well. So there's some key pieces there. The projects we just looked at the Onondaga 1 and Onondaga 2 projects, so they're kind of listed here as well as some others, as well as the size and the number of units available. I'm just going to quickly go through these because there's a lot of information, and again, trying to distill how do we present this to community in a way that's not too overwhelming, but it creates an interest, it creates an understanding of what's available, and then community members can go directly to departments and engage if they have additional questions. Social services, obviously there's a lot of in the plans, just in terms of supportive housing, transitional housing, with programming, wraparound services related to that. So there's all of this data has been captured in here. This is the housing loans portfolio that we currently have, just in terms of what rental units we have, what commercial rental units we have, as well as residential rental units. This is some of the work that's been done through Lands and Membership in terms of CPs that have been issued. 434. There's been a lot of transactions, as council knows. When we have those lists of transfers, there's a lot of them almost every time we have them on the agenda. A lot of survey work's been done, and we're shifting to look at our own survey land registry system with our presentation with Graham Sandy the other day, a couple of weeks ago. So that's also on the books to continue. Those are the maps that Ken had spoken to. Here's some other housing developments that are being planned, as was noted, in terms of where they're going to be located as well. The Martin property, the Herald Road property. So we're really confined to those spaces where we want to preserve space, as Ken has outlined, for future use, whether it's new housing developments down the road along Pauline Johnson or the schools. We need to be able to accommodate the schools because they have a lot of requirement for space. So we've put those on our GIS maps as well. So you can see council just recently approved the 54 unit elders assisted living complex, as well as I noted the 33 service lots on Herald Road, as well as the 188 apartment building over on the Martin property. I'm not going to go through a lot of these in too much detail. There's the lodge, there's the hospice that's listed here. All of these projects are here. And I think that the key here is that a lot of this work has been and will be done as a result of the work of this term of council. So I think it's an important message. And you know, we've always talked about patting ourselves on the back. This is our opportunity to do this at the AGA. And we did this all during the pandemic. So much of this work through the pandemic, not just the delivery of work, but the planning for the future succession plan. So I just wanted to go quickly, Chief, to the last slide for some concluding statements. And again, this is obviously not 100% complete. I'd say it's about an 85 to 90% completion rate right now. Our hope, as I mentioned, would be to bring this back to council in the next meeting or subsequent meeting to be in a position to print a report as a takeaway for community, along with our financial statements, because they'll be audited by the end of August. And that will be a takeaway for people that do attend the AGA. So just some high level comments. In the next 20 years, the population will grow by 40%, sorry, and that's a conservative estimate. You know, we expect a lot of people will want to come back to the community. We need to provide services that grow at this rate plus inflationary costs. So we put that into our models in order to reposition the community to be sustainable. We need to close that infrastructure gap. We need clean drinking water, we need quality housing and reliable services. And that's what this plan helps to give us the tools to do. And the upcoming court case and ensuing settlements will serve to bring new resources for the community. And again, these tools help us to make those investment decisions where best to put those investments. Again, we've strived to develop a succession investment plan that serves to improve the overall quality of the life of our people. And really, it's about healing, it's about mental health, it's about restoring confidence, for the generations to come. So I just wanted to maybe I'll pause there, Chief. There's a lot of information. I know it's been developmental for many, many weeks and months, in fact. So I just wanted to highlight that. And I'm just going to get back to stop my share, back onto here. And maybe I'll just pause for a second. I know there's a lot of hands coming up. I'm going to ask Zach if he has any comments, and even Jennifer if she has any comments in terms of the financial planning that's gone into this.
Yeah, sure. Morning, Council, Chief and Council. So yeah, a lot of the information that we're gathering, the data right now, is from our services that we provide as SNGR from our various departments, community data that comes out through different surveys and other sources, even external sources as well. And where there's knowledge gaps that exist, we're also pulling research data as well too, with a number of research studies that have been done in community over the years. So really trying to create a very comprehensive data set than we've ever had before, and using that data in different layers to synthesize information across different sectors, to be mindful of different contexts, such as when we're planning infrastructure, that we're being aware of environment, but also community health as well too within that. So we're trying to move to a state with this data that we're more strategic and proactive and less reactive with the decisions they're making, and less patchworking, and trying to be more sustainable for the future of the generations that are to come as well too. So yeah, I'm very hopeful that we'll be able to get that state even soon, using a lot of various different resources and tools to do that work. So yeah, really showcasing that through this AGA presentation as well. But a lot of that work is continuing to happen behind the scenes on a daily basis. So
Jennifer?
Thank you. From a financial standpoint, obviously, it's a plan, and plans evolve and change as more information comes. So we've been working on this for a number of months and planning out. And one of the things that we're checking for is conservatism. So making sure that things like inflation are built in, making sure that if there's a funding source that's identified, that we can put it against the plan so that we can achieve more. So that's something we've been trying to be really comprehensive of. And including, all of the members of the infrastructure task force to bring in their knowledge of their funding sources and making sure that the plan is more holistic, and just being able to adapt and modify as time goes on.
Hey, well, thank you, Nyawa, so much to Darren and the rest of the task force team for all of your hard work in the development of this plan. I know that's been a long time coming, and it's nice to see that we're getting to a point now of near completion to fully be able to showcase what this looks like to community. And so that we can start to again look at the next steps to the plan itself. So again, a lot of in-depth stuff. I know Darren's highlighted the fact that there'll be even more in-depth once we have our AGA. The whole goal behind the AGA too is allowing time to be more inclusive. So it's not just such a dry event where you're just reviewing financials, statements, and so forth. We really wanted to have opportunity to engage community, obviously with some entertainment and food and so forth. And so really can't wait to see this event take place. So I want to say again, Nyawa, to everybody for their contributions to this plan. Again, it's to Jennifer's point, ever evolving. I know as time goes on, but it's always nice to have at least that 10-year forecast across the board in terms of addressing the priorities within our community. So again, huge Nyawa to everybody on the work to this plan. I see a number of hands being raised. So I'll first begin with Audrey. over to Greg and then Sherry Lynn. Audrey, you have the floor.
Thanks, Mark. We've been asking for this for the last 7 years, and I'm glad somebody finally listened to us. And thank you, Darren, for all your hard work on this, to get a land manager and to start laying down up the plan for the whole entire reserve, including water lines and all the infrastructure that go along with it. It's taken a lot of work by everybody, and I commend you for all the work that you have done. But I'd like to know on that diagram you had there with the maps, is there space been set aside for like a Board of Education, an archival building where people can create Haudenosaunee materials, and also an adult language building, so that we're not renting all the time, we'll be owning it, and it'll, in the long run, it'll save a lot of money. And also the conditions that you put up, I'd like to really make sure around the schools and education that the cannabis stores, etc., are not located near them, as well as any kind of a heavy manufacturing is not located near the schools as well. So that's my question.
That was a few questions, Audrey. Thank you.
Okay, Darren, you know I always throw a few in there for you.
No, thank you. Thank you, first of all. I mean, yes, it's been a lot of work and it's hard to be perfect. I mean, that's the bottom line. We have a diminishing amount of land at our use, basically, to determine, that's why we're calling best use. What is the best use for the space, the limited spaces that we do have? There's opportunity perhaps to purchase land, as we've done in the past, from community members. That's always there. And but that's a big unknown, just in terms of the propensity of that, and whether the land is actually suitable for our needs. So this is a starter. This is a plan to say, okay, we put a pin in it to say this can work here. So thank you for your additional considerations. Part of the work of the ITF, or the task force, was to create a mechanism, a more formal mechanism, really, to assist council with decisions, to vet, to go through a due diligence and vetting process, to look at things like proximity to manufacturing and cannabis, and in particular the environment, drainage, like we just talked about that. All of those things are elements of that process now. So whenever there's a request or a project that's planned, it would go through this group to come up with recommendations and perhaps 2 options for locating a project, and that would come back to council. Like specifically, I'll give you an example. In the next little while, we're going to have council pass a BCR designating or setting aside these properties for the apartment complex, for one, and some of the other projects that we've listed. So just to it's just kind of providing that, and it's developmental. It was a lot of development, and that's why it's taken so long. It really has never been done. So we had to make sure we could afford it, a lot of this. So that's the other piece of the puzzle. That's a challenge, but we've done a lot of progressive things in this term of council. The new relationship with DevCorp, that has raised some certainty around additional revenues. There's just a lot of things like that that have come together, and just in the last, I'd say the last 2 quarters. So I just, so your points are well taken. I've made some notes, the language building, etc. I'm not sure that we've covered that one. Again, it's not perfect, but certainly we can always take those considerations forward as we keep building and going. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, well, Darren, it does.
Questions?
Thank you very much. Yes, I do tend to ask a lot of questions.
Okay.
How we learn. Yeah, well, I appreciate it.
Okay, Nyawa, thank you both, Audrey and Darren, for that. Our next speaker is Greg.
Yeah, thanks, Darren, and your team, Ken, Zach, Jennifer. Very well done. It's a lot of work. Anytime you get into statistical analysis, it takes a lot of time. You got to vet all the numbers, and the numbers change, as Jennifer said. They change every day. So, and as numbers mean cost, and costs keep going up, as you know. Yeah, because that 1.6 billion gap of basically what we have and what we need is it's quite a large number. And it's good to see also that you're able to possibly go to Canada Infrastructure for a loan or CMHC to cover this. But again, you know, it's always got to do with extra funding as well. And you know, the government, it's not that easy getting extra funding from them. And we have to either look for our own source revenue or we have to go borrow it. And that's some of the things I think that, especially with this new management agreement, that it may open up doors for own source revenue. And I think that will help to offset some of that, the liabilities of any loans that we have to incur, you know, so, but I just wanted to say that I think if the community also is amenable to looking at own source revenue, I think that'll be helpful as well. And like I said, moving forward, it looks good. And I commend you on your work. So it was nicely presented. Thank you.
Thanks. It's a challenge, Greg, as you can appreciate, to present not too much, but not too little. There's so much in the background behind this. There's schedules upon schedules and diagrams upon diagrams. But I think what we'll do a lot more work in planning. We're having weekly meetings as we go towards the AGA. And it's nice to have the visuals, but also some big maps that we will print and have for people to look at, and an opportunity to engage. It is a plan, and we've always talked about we want community to be engaged. So this is an opportunity to really get that going in a more robust way and a continual way. So thanks for your comments.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Nyawa, for that as well. And I think, Greg, just before I go over to Sherilyn, I think you've really touched on a point that we've always been saying for some time, and really looking to explore our own source revenue opportunities. You know, that's something that, you know, we always have to look at as a community, as you've noted, the challenges that we face, you know, with government funding and the rather lack of, you know, for some of the items and the long list of needs we have within the community. So I do appreciate your comments on that front. I'm going to shift over at this point to Sherilyn.
This is great. I'm glad to see this, and for sure, Audrey, yes, we've been asking this for a while, and it's good to see. Just a couple questions. I guess I'm looking at a museum or somewhere to put our artifacts, because the government is ready to give artifacts back and we need somewhere to put them. So, and instead of saying, no, we can't take them, you know, so I hope that's on the forefront ASAP also, as soon as possible, for sure. And I guess my other one is emergency housing. This comes up over and over within departments, asking counselors, emergency housing. I hope that's in there somewhere, again, ASAP too. So there's a lot of ASAPs as soon as possible, but I think if you can answer those, that would be great.
Yeah, thanks. And yeah, we have identified a figure, just on your last point about emergency housing, of 12.5 million in the budget. We were looking at being really creative about that, and we had talked about maybe buying a hotel or doing something more economical. I think also there's a lot of property within the territory that's abandoned, or could be purchased or converted for emergency housing as well. So I talked to Liliana about that as well. There's a lot of creative thoughts around that. So that's definitely, we do have a budget line in that $500 million number for that. So you know, it's a challenging piece, and I know we have additional changes to our policies around housing as well, not just with commercial or market housing, but supportive housing. So that would fall within that framework. But yeah, the archival piece it is located in the mapping on Harold Road at one of the bends there. It was there for quite a while actually. So there is space for an archival facility, which will also house artifacts, and our records office, which is dilapidated, as everyone knows. We have a design for it. I think it's around, I'm going to guess 30,000 square feet. It's pretty big. It's pretty substantial. I think it's 2 levels. We may have to add a 3rd level to make sure we have enough space, but we do have a design. It'll have to be updated. So that's also in our budget as well. It's just a question of when do we action it? And again, we've taken a lot of the cue from the priorities that the community survey identified for us, at least within this the last year to 2 years. And that's what we've tried to focus those priority investments around. But that doesn't mean that we can't be creative, and as new orange source revenue comes in, that we can actually use that and assign it to pay a loan, even internal loan to ourselves, to move these projects ahead a little bit quicker.
Just a follow-up, Chief?
Sure. Sure.
Yeah, and I'm glad to see that, because I don't want the government to say, oh, here's Six Nations, here's some artifacts, and we got nowhere to store them.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and I just see that a lot of other First Nations who are getting some artifacts back, and hopefully, you know, to change the legislation, that's always a fight also from stage 3 to get us to stage 1. But glad to see that. And for sure, you know, emergency housing is something that this is great plan, but something we can use now, you know, that's quick, simple, and to use, because it's not going away. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Noah, for that, Sherilyn. And I think just as well, just to your earlier comments on the archival piece and artifacts, I think this is also an opportunity to work with, obviously, the campaign fund for the new Woodland Cultural Center, that the group that had just launched that as well, where we can look for further collaboration and partnership to see, obviously, you know, they got a hefty budget within that new build, but I think could have an opportunity to showcase some of these artifacts within, you know, that component of the new Woodland Cultural Center. I know that's obviously, no, they're just starting the fundraising efforts and may need obviously take some time, but I think to be maybe inclusive on the plans may offset exactly what you're raising. Are there any further questions or comments? Over to you, Melba.
Yeah, thanks to everybody for certainly advancing our community in various ways through the environment, housing, and all other things that are discussed and planned and in place. I want to say that I believe that there's one big thing missing. When we talk about the environment, we're not talking about personal in relation to treatment of drug addicts. And I don't hear that at all. I have mentioned that to council, and I don't hear it very much, despite that we're losing so many people. I myself just lost a relative 2 weeks ago and was buried last week, and violence toward myself just the other night. So this is just my situation. There's many in the community. I've had a lot of the Thomas family that have passed away, and some are from the addiction also, which you've heard about in the park in Hagersville. It's real here, and I'm really surprised that we're not talking about a building where we can have treatment. I know we have the 9 unit near the Vets Hall. I know we have that, but that's programming. That is not treatment, and that's what we need in this community. A combination of Western and traditional treatment. New Credit, with their treatment center, it's not big enough, not with our population. I've had a girl right now who certainly wanted to get treatment and unable to get in. So I think it's across the board, and we have to look at the vulnerable people. And so I'm hearing the words of overall of quality life, which Darren said. Mental health. I've heard Zach say community health, you know, for our future generations. So where is the data concerning the people that have passed away from drugs, as well as the people who have been incarcerated as a result of the drug trafficking? So I'd like certainly more discussion on the possibility of a treatment center. We do have the dollars coming back from economic development, over $3 million. And where is the priorities? This is a lot of good priorities where more housing is in place. We know that we're lucky we don't have people camping out right in the village. We're lucky. Look what the cities have. And look what Hamilton has, Brantford. So I would think that we should have more discussion at that, and I would look forward to hearing from other counselors what they think about the priority of a treatment center is here in our community.
Okay, thank you, Nella, for that, Melba. I think it's you're hitting the nail on the head, and I know obviously I see Zach has his hand raised, and Darren to further add to some of your comments. So I'll maybe start with Darren and then shift over to Zach.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. Yeah, that's great. And thanks, Melba. We did also include a treatment center, safe beds in our budget as well in that infrastructure plan. And again, it's a question of, like you say, priority and how do we get it going and how do we build it? I think you offered some really good suggestions in terms of that data. So I think maybe Zach can speak to that. But if it builds advocacy too, in terms of other sources of revenue or funding to support that build, when we have the statistics to support the need here more fulsomely, like we put a budget figure of $7.5 million based on the data we had, but that may not be sufficient. But we can certainly move those projects forward through our investment. We have a significant amount of money on our balance sheet that's sitting in investments. We can loan ourselves money and pay it back if we can identify revenue streams, such as a portion of the DevCorp funds or a portion of the OFNLP dollars. So there's all this and other revenue streams that come on. So there's ways that we can move these forward when the time is right. I know this is long overdue. We have a lot of legacy issues in this community. I know you know this, Melba. There's been a lot of unanswered and needs that haven't been addressed. So I think we're stepping forward. But you're right; it needs to be considerate of that. Is if we can't have quality or healthy fit people if we can't treat them the proper way. So yes, it is in the budget, but it needs a little bit more detail in terms of its design and kind of setting it in terms of the timeline. So I'll pause on that point and just pass it over to Zach. I know he's doing the data stuff, so I'm sure he can offer some more comments.
Yeah, thanks, Darren. Yeah, and just want to offer my condolences as well too to you and your family, Melba, in the passing of a family member recently. We know this is a community concern and issue that a number of our families deal with in community, and it's something that we are taking seriously as well too. And we know it was identified as a need within the community priority survey as well too around mental health. In terms of the data concerning addictions and drug prevention strategies and stuff, we're slowly growing this out on our end within health services, also within my team, with our drug strategy prevention officer and epidemiology as well too, looking into this. All this data doesn't fully live within our organization alone, so we're looking at building out data sharing agreements with external agencies to be able to pull this information in so that we can plan around it a bit better than we currently are able to. We're also into some early day planning, very early days, just looking at potential and around a treatment center within health services. Again, nothing set on that, but just looking at sort of early planning based upon what the data is telling us right now at this point, as well as working within our departments, exploring an overall strategy to deal with homelessness within the community, knowing this is a part of our sort of broader housing needs within that broader sort of spectrum of housing needs that we have in community as well too. And again, all this is sort of tied together with homelessness, mental health, and addictions and prevention tied to that as well too. So yeah, so your points are very well taken, and we're taking them seriously on our end as well too, and just trying to make sure that any strategies that we take around this are sustainable and not, but also meeting immediate needs as well too. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now, both Darren and Zach for your responses, and as well again, Melba for your comments. I'll shift over at this point again to back to Audrey.
Yes, thank you, Mark. I'd like to know if we have a researcher who could research the effects of THC on the brain and memory loss. There's research that's coming out, and we need to be on top of this stuff, because when you start mixing THC and alcohol and depression meds, you're asking for people to basically have mental health issues. It increases it. So if people knew, and maybe they do know, but we need to make sure our young kids know all about this, because we're going to see more and more grow, because as you know, cannabis is legal, but people don't know what dose to take. And you start eating those gummies, and some of them are 1,000 times the strength. So you eat a little piece and you take more and more and more. Next thing you know, there's problems. So I would like us to make sure that we keep an eye on that, and that we do start doing some research on that and education of our youth and our community. Yeah. Well,
Okay, thanks, Nyawa, for that, Audrey. I see that's obviously some points and notes being taken from the team on the suggestions raised. Are there any further questions or comments for Darren or anyone on his team on the plan, the infrastructure plan? Again, this is all in preparation for our upcoming AGA. And sorry, just to confirm the date, Darren.
Yeah, thanks, Chief. It's August the 24th, which is a Thursday. And we're asking people to start gathering at 4. We probably won't get going until 4:30, between 4:30 and 5, but we wanted to have the opportunity for people to hear a presentation, an overall presentation, but that it would continue throughout the evening through booths and information tables set up. And it would go till approximately 9 at the latest, because there's a drone show that's planned. Obviously, that's best to do at nighttime with TAP Resources and her team to also promote the Walk the Track event. So we'll have those dates all kind of lined up in succession. So that's the date. I just want just a couple quick points too, Chief, just in conclusion on this is we are looking at printing a booklet from the presentation deck. So I think we need to get that to the printers no later than the first week of August. So there will be an opportunity for this to come back to council to review again. So I will share the materials that was presented today, but there will be updated versions. Certainly, I know council's taking a break at the end of July, but we'll get something to council before that so they can have an opportunity to review and comment before we finalize it. I suggest that we have an actual approval on the materials on the first earliest meeting in August, which I think is August the 7th, which is a general council, or August 8th, sorry, Tuesday, August the 8th in the evening, because we'll have to get that into the printers for printing and available for folks at the AGA.
Okay, excuse me. Okay, thanks, Nyawa, for that, Darren. Again, want to open the floor for any final questions or comments for Darren and his team. Audrey.
yes, Darren and his team and everybody else who worked on this and had the ideas, which is all of council and chief and council, all his staff. This is been one of the best things that we have produced, and that is this infrastructure. We'll know when, hopefully we can update some of the water lines as well and expedite them, because 12 years to get down second line is unacceptable. Right, Darren? So we have to, as I say, bring the community along with us. They need to know what we're doing, why we're doing it, and it's all in the best interest of the community members. Everything we do is for the community. And we are working diligently. I know that there's been some negative feedback saying we're doing nothing, but we're doing lots of good for Six Nations, and the education and health and social. All of it is working in step lock together. And this environmental or infrastructure team has really brought it all together so that people are working no longer in silos. They're working collaboratively together to help build this reserve and make it stronger, and a sense of community. We have to work on that sense of community where we all get along and work together for the same cause, and that's to help our 7 generations from now. So kudos to everyone who helped and continues to help, and to our chief and council. Yeah.
Audrey, for your comments, really great comments. I think it's it's been a long time coming. I know Darren, Zach's probably, I'm sure, been crunching numbers left and right for months on data and so forth. And so again, there's like you say, Audrey, everybody has a role. I think and it's really coming in understanding what those roles are, and to really be able to again have that collaboration. I think that's been really the most beneficial part about this exercise is really looking at that collaborative effort that's been put in place by the team and so forth. And so, do want to say again, to everybody involved as well. I think it's something where I don't think we've ever been positioned in the sense of this extent of in-depth planning. Of really, again, I think it was to someone's earlier point of putting us in that position of being in proactive or being in proactive solutions, as opposed to constantly reacting to situations. I think that's been always something that we've done, and it's something that we've, I think, had opportunity to reflect on and to really see where we can improve. And so that's really where I see a lot of these plans that we have built out, again, for the best interests of the people. I think that's really what this is all about, and so do appreciate all of the work as well that has gone in, and want to really see as many community members as we can get involved and to be informed further on, especially when it comes up to the AGA, the August date, and as well leading up to our Walk the Track event happening. So there's a lot of good things happening. So sorry, back over to you, Audrey. I see your hand
Yeah,
raised.
I left a couple people out. I would really like to express my gratitude to Phil Mentor and Lonnie Bombery and their team, Taylor Hill, all the team that have worked so hard on our land and research for decades. The hard work they put in to negotiate and try to get some accommodations for our land, even though it doesn't interrupt and interfere with our court case. And even though third parties basically aren't required to accommodate us, but they work really hard to make sure that Six Nations gets land back, accommodated for it, as well as the court case that they're working on right now is it's amazing the work that has been done. And that's where I say that we have so many good people in Six Nations who think of the whole community, every community member. How do we have a well community? And that's what we're after. Now,
Totally agree. Thank you, Nyawa, for that, Audrey. And I think the other important piece is really looking at the continuity, right? The goal is we should never ever have to work from a lens or perspective of this council to the next council. It should always be a nice continuity where we're setting each other up and making sure that there's success in succession planning and have things happening so that, and I think there was a comment made earlier on, government doesn't wait for when communities are transitioning leadership. And I think that's something where this plan will also assist, who comes in next into the future and into leadership, and that we're really building out, the tools and the resources necessary to continue to see progression. I think that's really the key on all this. So again, do appreciate the work. At this point in time, what I'll ask for is a resolution motion, mover and seconder to accept Darren and his team's presentation as information at this point. Moved by Audrey. Is there a seconder?
I'll second it, Melba.
Seconded by Melba. And again, I'll call for any final questions or comments. Okay, seeing or hearing none, all in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Again, want to say a huge nyawa to everybody involved. I won't name names because I know there's too many to name, and there's a collective effort across the board. So again, thank you and nyawa to everybody. And I think, it was really nice to see this meeting of progress in things that are happening for the good within community. It's not always bad. I think sometimes we focus in sometimes too much on the negative, whereas we miss out on the positive things that are happening. So it's nice to see a lot of the positives. So Nyawa, again, to everybody for joining us this morning. That actually does complete our agenda for this morning's general finance meeting. So at this point in time, I will look to a motion to adjourn.
Mark, it's Hazel.
Oh, sorry, Hazel.
Yeah, I'm sorry I was having such connectivity problems this morning. So I just got my telephone unmuted just a few minutes ago. I wanted to bring up under new business a concern that I have received. People are waiting on the advertisement for the Director of Health Services, formerly the name has been changed to Director of Wellbeing. One person called and said that they were told that the position is closed. And I did some research and I asked both papers if they have advertised, because I went back through papers and I did not see anything. And I know we can only assume and start from June because that's when the former director put in her notice of not returning. So I went through all of the papers and there was nothing advertised. So then I contacted the paper editors to see if they have advertised that position, and I understand that they haven't. So I went on Leaders International because I know that they have hired some of the positions that have been hired here. And there it was on Leaders International. And the reason I did that is because the concern for this person who was quite upset, thinking and being told that the position is now closed. But I'm looking for somebody to verify that it's not closed, because the Leaders International does not specify that at all, that it's closed. And I don't know why it's not advertised here locally within our community, because there are numerous people that are qualified to do this task, and Leaders International brings in people could be from anywhere. I know there was one position advertised and there was application from Bombay who had got an interview or got us screened in for an interview. So I don't know. Let me just tell you that I am concerned about the fact that I know that the past presentation we just heard is building our community. We have to build our community with our own people being given chances to apply for and obtain these positions. Right now, it's up in the air. Nobody knows, is this position closed? Why is it out in Leaders International and it's not advertised here in Six Nations? That's my question. Does anybody know the answer to those? Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Hazel. I think you would have gotten an easier, quicker response if you would have just emailed Darren. But the role is open until filled. The local ads will be going out soon. To answer your question,
Mark, I included Darren in my inquiries.
okay. Well, he's online now. I'm sure he could speak for himself. Darren, do you have anything further to add?
I did reply, and it's normal practice for leaders to go through a process, and they do local advertising. So I got on them. Thanks for raising it. It's delayed, but the rules were not finalized until recently. So it will go out very soon, and it's open until filled. We have socialized it as well with teams within health services for those interested.
So you can verify that this is not a closed posting. It's still open for people to apply.
Yes, and if you wouldn't mind, Hazel, either sharing it now or through email, who the individual was that was, or who told this individual that it was closed, because that's not right.
No, I don't want to go there to make somebody feel put on a spot. The fact is, I just did research to verify, is this closed or not? Because then it gives that person a chance to apply. Thank you. That's all I needed.
Okay, thanks. Sorry. And it looks like your research is also complementary to the response. Okay, is there anything further? Okay, seeing or hearing none, then I'll look to a motion to adjourn. Moved by Nathan, seconder. Seconded by Greg. All in favor? Any opposed? Seeing or hearing none, motion is carried. Thank you, Nyawa, to everybody for joining us this morning on General Finance, and I hope you have a great start to your week. And as well, again, just want to give another shout out to all of our athletes participating at the North American Indigenous Games. I know we're looking to do something as a community to welcome them all back. I know that was one of the items Sherry Lynn had brought forward in terms of seeing our players and athletes off. However, given that they were leaving at different times and so forth, it was hard to coordinate with the time that we had left. So we will be doing something when our athletes return, hopefully with some medals. So again, all the best of luck, and I hope everybody's enjoying their time in Halifax. Thank you, take care, and have a great day.